There's a saying, and it is that birds of a feather flock together. And if you stop and think about most of your friends, those really close friends, they are a lot like you. So, why is it whenever couples pick a partner when they go to get married, they often pick the opposite? Well, today we're talking about introverts and the pros and cons in marriage of being an introvert or being married to an introvert. What do you think about a magnet? A magnet literally sticks to that metal or it repels. And when you take two magnets that are just alike and you put them on the positive side, they like repel each other. Or the negative side, they repel each other. But whenever you put that positive and that negative together, they actually stick together. And that might be explain a little bit about extroverts and introverts getting married. So, yes, so often we are attracted to people that are just like us. But often we need somebody who will fill in those gaps. They'll fill in those gaps. Um, if you are married to an introvert, or you are an introvert, if you're married to an introvert, you may need to understand a little bit about them because the differences that you have literally sometimes make you feel unloved, not important. Maybe they don't show any emotion, and you literally think, do they even love me anymore? All right, so I'm going to tell you a little bit about that today. Well, one of the main pros of being an introvert is introverts have a deep connection with their spouse. Typically, introverts don't like change. So that's good, right? They don't like change, and they're typically good listeners. And so they literally, when you are talking, they put their attention on you. So introverts have deep connections, and that's something that we all want in our marriage. The second thing is they have excellent listening skills. Now, this is one of the things I teach about all the time is the importance of listening. And these people will give you their eyes, they will be singularly focused, and they will listen to you unless you're the opposite and you talk so very much. That's another day's lessons, right? But introverts are excellent listeners and they truly give you their attention. The third thing is they're very thoughtful. They're very thoughtful and kind and sometimes empathetic. They pay attention to people and they are very good about, supporting their partner and making them feel special. They're very independent. And that means they don't need anyone else to go with them here or go with them there. They are actually loners and they like to be alone. In fact, they refuel whenever they're alone. And so often, this independence makes a spouse who is opposite and doesn't need that alone time feel like they're alienated or pushed away or not paid attention to. A fifth thing is they are very loyal. And I kind of said that earlier. They're a very loyal person. They don't need change. And so they're not going to make changes very quickly on anything. And so they're very loyal. Then the sixth thing is they have a calm demeanor. So, whenever those fusses and fights and disagreements start, they are quiet, they are calm, and sometimes they literally shut down. And so, if you are an extrovert and you're yelling or screaming, or you're overly excited, or they kind of shut down. But remember, they're good listeners. And so they're going to listen. But if you keep on yelling, they're not going to continue listening. Now, let's look at some of the things that they need. They need alone time. And that means Daily, they need alone time. So when they come in from work, they may need to just be by themselves for a little while instead of having a chat and talking. If it's if the partner that is at home all day long and they've been with the kids, then they're looking for some conversation. They're looking to share with their partner what all went on today. The good things, the cute things that the 2-year-old did, or the bad things that happened with the 7-year-old, or the arguing or the frustrations, but they don't really want to hear that right away because they need that alone time. So a good idea is to allow them a little bit of time by themselves whenever they come in from work. And if it's opposite and it's the other way around, and mom's been with the kids all day and she's an introvert, then she needs a little time all by herself to refuel. Do you see what I'm saying there? Communication barriers happen whenever you are opposite of each other because one wants to talk about everything. They need to talk it out, talk about the frustrations, and the other one does not. They're an analyzer and they're thinking about everything themselves, and they don't need to talk it out. But what happens is whenever things aren't talked about, then one partner feels frustrated and feels like things can't be resolved because they need to talk it out or talk about the problems. So you can see how introverts and extroverts do have communication barriers. So it doesn't matter what brought them together. Once they're married, communication barriers are a really big thing. And this is it. I teach communication secrets for marriage. This class is not only good for people who are married, but it's good for people to understand their kids. It's good for people to understand people at work that are different than them, because we expect everyone to be just like us and have the same needs that we have. But the truth is, we're all different. And these differences, we assume we're alike. These differences give us different preferences, different ways of doing things. And communication is an important part of building a solid relationship. The quiet person, the introvert, the quiet person is not talking. And so you think something's wrong. Maybe they're not smiling. Let's think about the different ways that we communicate. Body language. Introverts don't have a lot of body language. Yeah, you always hear about the silent type, right? Not a lot of body language. Whenever they're speaking, they don't get too excited. There's not a lot of reflection in their voice. Honestly, when you get a smile from an introvert, you're like, oh my gosh, that's so precious. They smiled. Yeah, not a lot of smiles, not a lot of body language, not a lot of tone of voice. And so it's hard to tell when they're really excited or really into you, right? But you look back on those days whenever you're dating and you're thinking, they were into me then and they talked to me then. Why was that? Because you were getting to know each other. You were figuring out what you had in common, what you liked about each other. And then once you get comfortable with each other in marriage, suddenly they get quiet. They need their time alone. And now you're realizing your differences. One person likes to go to parties, be with a lot of people, go out to dinner, go out in public, wherever. And the introvert likes small crowds, just a few chosen people that they especially like. They don't like a lot of loudness. They don't like attention drawn to them, and they just like a few friends. So what happens whenever you're married to an introvert and you're an extrovert? Can you see one likes lots of people, one likes alone time and refuels that way? Also, the introvert may look and appear like they're unavailable because they're not talking, but they really are good listeners. And so whenever you're talking or when I'm talking, I know I like a little conversation. I like a little head bob. I like to see on your face that you're listening. I like to have your eyes. I like a conversation to come back from you because that shows me you're listening. One of the things that you can do whenever you are chatting, if you are an introvert, is nod your head. Just learn a few things that make your partner know, yes, I'm paying attention. Yes, I care. Nod your head. Sometimes you can repeat back what that person was saying to you, not all of it, of course, just a few of the things to let them know that, yes, you are really listening. Because when you have a partner that appears to be unavailable to you, especially if you are opposite, then you start to seek out other places, other friends, in order to fill that void of feeling like you just are not receiving that attention that you crave as an extrovert. Extroverts love to be with people, love to talk, and love to interact. So, introverts, sometimes you have to fake it just a little bit, and um, in Mary Kay, we used to always say, fake it till you make it. There's a lot of things in life that goes for. Sometimes whenever we become moms, we have to fake it till we make it, right? Because it's something new to us. So a little bit of body language lets your partner know that you're paying attention. Uh, Conflict avoidance. Now, here's a really big one for introverts. They hate conflict. They don't like things that are loud. They don't like people getting all excited around them. And so they tend to avoid conflict. So, what happens when things go wrong and the introvert is not wanting to talk it out? Now they're really not wanting to listen because they don't want to respond. They don't want to open up. Introverts are just like it says, introverted. They are inside themselves. They are self contained. They're independent. They really don't even need other people very much at all. And when it comes to conflict, if you are an introvert, you have to learn by practicing sharing how you feel. Yeah, it's a really hard thing. Introverts don't share how they feel. They don't want you to know how they feel. They don't show it on their face. And for those of us who read people, I read people, you can't read them. So you don't know if they're like happy or unhappy or into things or not into things, or is this working for you? You don't know. So it leaves people hanging. So if you don't learn to voice your opinion, then your spouse can't even know what is important to you. They can't read your mind and they can't read your face because you don't show things on your face. So they avoid conflict. And what happens with that? It's not discussed and it's not resolved. And anything that's not resolved festers. Not discussed, not resolved. It festers. Do you see my point there? So, communication is a very important part of relationships. In fact, marriage is the closest relationship you should have. You should be best friends and be able to share anything. Now, on the other hand, if the introverted person shares, it's important to listen and not ridicule what they said. You really have to be quiet, extroverts, whenever they're talking about stuff because they'll take it personal. So it is important to um, resolve conflict. I know for me, if I sleep on something and I'm upset, it might not even be anything important. But if I sleep on it, then it's gotten bigger and bigger and I'm more upset the next day. So I'd kind of like to hear from some introverts. How is that for you? If you sleep on it, do you just like let it go and not think about it, or does it fester? The sixth thing is feeling overwhelmed if a partner craves attention. So you have that extrovert if you are opposites, and the introverts, one needs to be by themselves. They need quiet. They don't like to be with a crowd. And the extrovert needs that attention. They need to be able to see that smile on your face. The body language you have needs to show them that you love them. Uh, the how you act, what you do, but there are other ways of doing things. A really important thing is to know the love languages. Know your love language, what you need from your spouse. This is a great place to stop and talk about it. Know your love language. It sounds like such a simple thing, but literally, when you know your love language and you know your spouse's love language, now you know what's most important to them. Is it getting gifts, a little surprise gift? Is it spending time holding hands, sitting by each other, watching TV? Is it doing some kind of challenging, new, fun things together? It's important to know the love languages. Now, practical advice for extroverts and introverts. Of course, it's supposed to be all about introverts today. Is identifying your common ground. I was reading a book and it's talking about his needs and her needs, and how when people fall in love, they look past those differences and they they find what they love to do together, and they like to talk, whether they're introverts or extroverts, because they're finding out about each other and getting to know each other. Well, once you get married, it doesn't change. You want to continue growing in that bond together. You want to be best friends. And that might not be staying together all the time, spending all your time together, especially if you need time alone. But it's making time and doing it on purpose, doing things that you have in common on purpose, taking time and feeling those love languages on purpose. So you want to figure out, what were your shared needs, your shared needs, your shared interests. What were your shared interests? Have you stopped going out on dates? Have you stopped talking? Have you stopped doing things together that you like to do? Sometimes we have kids, and the more kids we have, the less time we have and the less energy we have. We're exhausted. I like to tell my kids these days, they all have children. And I said, you know what? Because they'd say, oh, you should have children when you're young and you have energy. No, I don't believe that. I have a lot of energy. You know why? Because I don't have responsibility of children. If you're a mom or a dad and you're trying to give those kids attention, feed them, clothe them, take care of them, listen to them, take care of their needs, it's exhausting. It's a wonderful, special season of life, raising your kids. And there's no more important job than that. But it's exhausting. And once everybody's out of the house and it's just you and your spouse again, guess what? It's all about the two of you. And you want to make sure you still have some things in common. And yes, you have more energy because now you're responsible just for yourself. So shared interests between spouses, it has to be on purpose. You have to talk about it, spend time communicating and talking. And quality time is always important. They say quantity or quality. Well, I would always say quantity and quality, making sure that you're doing something like, when you go to a movie, that's really nice, but we sit at home and watch TV too. So going to dinner and talking, maybe looking for, I know I have some things that help you start conversations. Sometimes we literally don't know what to say. Introverts, if you bring up something that they are interested in, then you can get some conversation. Yeah, if you will learn what your introverted husband or wife is interested in and study up on it, then you'll be able to find things for conversations. Sometimes we have to get outside ourselves and really put our attention on our spouse because we want to keep them around. We want to grow that relationship. All right, so you want to make sure that you're paying attention to their needs. There we go back to the love languages. What is their love language? Also, their needs of alone time or playtime, time out with people. And so you have to come together and compromise. Yeah, you have to compromise. I'm going to give you your alone time. And sometimes you have to step out of your comfort zone and go with me to do other things. It is compromise. Isn't marriage compromise in everything? So you want to pay attention to their needs. Then also, you want to make sure you listen carefully when your introverted partner says something. Yeah, they don't say a lot, but when they do, and they do give an opinion, or they're usually analyzing and thinking about things. Whenever they do talk, you want to give them your attention and listen. I know my daughter is going through that thing where she has little kids and work and household and a lot of challenges, a lot of crazy life going on, and sometimes she does that where she's stops and we're having a conversation and she's looking away at the kids. She's thinking about something else, and I mean it's very visual. And if you're married to somebody and they're literally not giving your eyes and they're not paying attention to you, you start to feel unimportant. Uh, and actually, you kind of close down and you're like, why even talk, right? So if you're married to an introverted person, make sure when they are ready to talk that you're like, okay, they're talking, I'm ready, I'm listening, and give them your full attention so they know you're listening. It's important to balance those social activities. You know, I go with you to do things. You go with me to do things. That didn't come out right, did it? One person wants to do certain kind of activities. One wants to do very little activities. You have to meet in the middle. Introvert might like hiking, just the two of you. What's other things? Going to dinner, just the two of you. um Sitting and talking, just the two of you without any commotion going around. You want to be sure and support one another. Figure out what's most important to your partner and then support one another. You want to strengthen the emotional connection, just like we talked about today. Small gestures, little things that make them feel important. There again, love languages. By the way, I think I did a podcast on that. Is either episode 3 or 5, and you can also find it on YouTube, where I did a 4 minute on love languages. You want to schedule check-ins and you want to discuss feelings, because remember, they're not going to discuss their feelings. And so you have to ask questions in order to start to pull it out of them gently. But when you are talking to your introverted partner, you want to never raise your voice. You don't want to get antsy. You don't want to be in a hurry. You want to be very relaxed and easygoing. You don't want to interrogate. You don't want them to feel like you're interrogating them. But there again, finding that something to have conversation with them of something that you have in common. The thing is, people think, act, and respond differently. And today, what we're talking about is how some people, they think fast. Well, introverts are methodical. They analyze. They think about what they're going to say before they say it. That's why they don't typically say not nice things and blurt out emotional things. They don't do that. But they think differently and they take time to make decisions. They take time to make decisions. They move a little slower. They talk a little slower. Now, I don't want to say introverts are slow. They're just not quick-minded and fast. Sometimes as a fast-minded person, I'm reminded that I don't have to be in such a hurry all the time. Introverts are not in a hurry. Then we all act differently. We respond differently. So if you were at a counter out at a store and uh, you were working and a person started to blast you because they were frustrated with something that had happened at the store and they were angry, an introvert just kind of closes down. They're quiet and they listen. They respond only as much as they need to. Honestly, they're able to handle that situation a little bit better. But an extrovert would show the frustration that person was causing them on their face, and they would sometimes respond in that same manner. When we think about that in marriage and we think about home life, uh, if you are like maybe anger is one of your top emotions and everything frustrates you, work, life, pressure, stress, kids, money, everything stresses you, and you're constantly kind of badgering or yelling or frustrated with your spouse and they're an introvert, they'll take it and they'll take it and they'll take it, but they won't tell you their feelings. You won't even know how very much you are frustrating them. They may take it for years and years, but suddenly one day they will respond and they will have made a decision and they'll probably be out of there. And you'll be thinking, what happened? I thought everything was great. Thought we were getting along great. And that's because they don't express their feelings and they don't tell you when there's problems because they don't talk about it much. So remember that introverts, if you're introverted, it's important to learn just a few skills like opening up, sharing your feelings with people who love you, and make sure you do get that time that you need to refuel. And you have to verbalize that to your partner so they understand it's not about them, but it's about you and your need for quiet time. So I hope you take a few things from this today. And remember communication secrets for marriage. There is an online on demand class that gives you the logistics. It's in short little spurts, it is an online course. And you also get a personalized assessment with that. Now, often I find that spouses often have to go first because often if there's challenges in marriage that aren't being resolved, and there's so many different kind of cases of that, one spouse can go first and begin to understand about their own personality and what they need and what they want. And then as they learn this, they start to learn about their spouse and what causes problems between them, what causes their spouse to explode. Often we learn it's not about us, it's about them. So, if there's conflict in your marriage, it's usually about the other person. And if you're the one exploding, then that's you, right? But the communication secrets for marriage helps you understand all about yourself. It helps you understand your strengths. It helps you accept yourself, gain confidence, and then you can understand your spouse. So you can take that online course, then you have it. You can then purchase a second assessment, and your spouse can go through that course. Now, talk about conversation. That's some things to talk about once you've both been through that course. And often I have online live workshops, like I have one coming up right now. But when you're listening to this, it might not still be there. But I have live workshops also. All right, my name is Connie Durham, the Extraordinary Marriage, and I want to help you build an extraordinary marriage.